Okay, we're at historic Evergreen Cemetery in Gainesville. This is our second video. This is going to be of the quote-unquote main part, or not the old part or the original part, which we already did a video on. This is extensive, it's massive. There's over 10,000 interments here. We're not going to see it all, and we're just going to try to see what I consider to be the highlights and give a fairly quick overview. This is began Interments in 1856. A baby girl of a cotton merchant passed away. His wife, they buried her over in the old section. His wife passed away not too much longer after that. This is 8 months, and they buried her, and then 10 years later he sold the property. This is a grave of Augustus Steele. I'm not sure who that is, but you can look it up later. That's a UDC or UCV medallion marker. Means that person served his country and his state when it called. And we see a lot of in Florida, we see a lot of burials from other places after the war. There was almost nothing left. Everything was burned out, and a lot of those people came down after the war here to make their living. Good land, free or cheap to people who are willing to work. This is really cool. This guy's nickname, I guess, was Moon, which one can only surmise where that came from. Moon, firm and green. Very cool. Classic Southern cemetery. We're in Gainesville, so we're in the north central part of the state, more or less, and oak trees are quite abundant naturally here, and we see a lot of them in this cemetery. This is a 700-acre ground. See a lot of different things in a cemetery that are unique for me. In each cemetery I go to, there's something unique about it. This one is something I've seen once or twice before, but you don't see all the time, and it's quite interesting, shocking, and very, very sad. These burials that we're going to now are all from a place called, what do they call it, Sunland Training Center, which was a euphemism for a developmentally disabled institution, or physically disabled. Apparently, and this was apparently, and I don't know for sure, but just judging by the sheer number of burials here, this must have been a statewide institution where wherever you lived, if you had a child that was disabled, you couldn't care for him or her, you brought them here. These dates of life and death are all 5 years old, 3 years old, 10 years old, 13 years old. There's one that's 15. That's an old one. There's another one that's 15. There's one that's 3, 5, 4. I mean, you can only imagine in that age, going back to the 20s and the teens and the 30s, what the medicine and the medical care was very rudimentary, putting it kindly. They just did not understand anything compared to what they do now, and so you just, it was a lot of inability to care for these people, and or to extend their lives to any sort of degree. And so they passed away at a very young age, and who knows what they would have had. Polio, I mean, whatever, who knows. Some sort of malady that caused them to pass away, and they're buried here. This is their ground. Very, as I said, very sad, very, very sad. My father and his brother made their livings in a nursing home, and they owned it. And I spent time off and on in it as a child, and I saw much suffering, and even some young suffering. Mostly it's elderly. People who just can no longer care for themselves. Family doesn't want them. Put them in a nursing home. And the nursing home staff cares for them until they die. I mean, it's a way station to the afterlife. You're not coming out of there. Most people did not come out of there. So, I've seen it. I've seen some of that, but I've never seen it with so many young people. That would be heartbreaking. This is another section I found very interesting. And again, you don't see this in every cemetery. I've seen it in a few, but I've never seen it this big. But this is a potter's field. This is the indigent section. Most of them have these little tin markers because they don't have any kin to come put a regular marker on them. And then later on, when the kin was able to, they would come and put some of these more permanent concrete or granite markers. But you can see it extends all the way back throughout the entirety of this section. So we already went through the old section. What I call the old section, I don't know what they call it. That's just, it was the center. It had the most interesting monuments by far, and I thought it was just really cool. So I did a separate video on that, so it wouldn't take up, because you couldn't do just one full video. It would take more time than this camera is going to film for. And with 10,000 interments, you're certainly not going to be able to cover every marker, and no one would want to watch that anyway. I certainly would. So this is more or less just for posterity. This is just to give someone an overview of Evergreen Cemetery, and if someone wants to, they can come check it out themselves, and highly recommend that. I mean, this is a very historic place. This part of the state. And Gainesville itself is a very historic area. Before Gainesville became the county seat, Noonesville was the county seat. Much like in Citrus, where Manfield was before Inverness became the county seat. But as things happen in a progression, an evolution more or less, businesses move, people move. Yellow fever, freezes, agricultural freezes. Here's another Dickinson. That reminds me, I never saw John Dickinson's grave. He's in Jacksonville at a cemetery I didn't get to go to. Have to put that one on the back burner. Well, that's sad. 77 and 93. That's sad. So this is an older section. It's not the old section. The old section is back in here, past that monument you see straight ahead. And we're not going to go all through there. There's a couple of interesting monuments over here we'll catch. That's pretty cool. Looks like somebody's keeping that up real well too. Pound. Wow, very nice, very nicely done, very well kept up. Oh, this was really cool, I thought. This hand reaching up, never seen that before. I like it. A lot of things we see we've seen before, but skeeters. Never saw that. It's interesting. Another soldier. Some wrought iron. Signifying a cardinal. Cool. A plot. Whenever I see this much ground and only a couple of stones, I wonder if there aren't unmarked graves in there. A lot of times there are, which is why I wonder that. Same here. In fact, I don't see single stone. Well, there's 2 stones there in the corner. But back in the day, you could barely afford to buy the ground, much less a stone to put over somebody. And after time passed and people died, other people died, nobody cared about it anymore. Some people die with nobody, and some people die with somebody, but those people die and they don't have anybody. So very quick and easy to be put in the ground and forgotten. More usual than you'd think. Every Aboriginal person who lived in this state would have been buried more or less in a mass grave. Well, exactly a mass grave, just not all at once. Buried on top of one another, and on top of one another, and on top of one another. Here's what I think, so far as I can tell, the biggest, tallest marker in this cemetery. Somebody named Baird, I think it was, if memory serves. Yeah, Baird. A Judge Baird in Pinellas County years ago had him for a teacher for his St. Pete Junior College for a class, criminal law. Very good man, but very stern. Not somebody I'd want to face having done something wrong. So this is the second older section. The newer section is over here. We're not going to go into that. You can sort of see here what it is. It's quite extensive, quite large. And this map said they have several more acres in the corner back over here that they have set aside for future interments. So this is very much an active ground as well as historic ground. So we're gonna head on over to the museum now, see what kind of cool stuff we can get into over there. I want to see the Fort Center bird. Very cool place. I was here once before, and I just kind of drove through. I think I saw Finley's grave. I'm sure I got some photographs of it somewhere, just in my computer somewhere years and years ago. But I didn't really get to do a full-on review and examination of this ground, which I like to do. Holy cow, now that is really cool. I've never seen that before. Never seen that before. That is a marker of the marker. Goodness gracious, that thing is Huge. I like that. Oh man, that's cool. That is the CSA UDC medallion you're not pulling out of the ground. And this guy served in Company G, 4th Florida Infantry. John W. Riggs or Pigs. It looks like Pigs. P-I-G-G-S. Very, very neat. Got to get a picture of that. All right, we're going to shut this down for now and move on.